We've talked about boundaries before and setting them in your business, but which pieces of your messaging actually can help support you in setting boundaries? And then how do you express them for the world to see in a way that's kind and honest? In this episode, we're going to talk about how our messaging on our websites, on our social media, and beyond can help us to actually achieve our goals, all by setting boundaries. Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you. When people come to work with me as a small business copywriter to write their website copy or craft their brand messaging, some of the things I ask my clients are questions like, tell me about your client journey. I want to know A to Z. I want to know when they find you and then also when the project ends. What does that all look like? Tell me about the people you love working with. Tell me about the people you do not love working with. Tell me about what you like to do on your weekends. How do you spend your free time? Do you work nights, weekends? Tell me all about how you kind of schedule your day. How do you want people to contact you? What are the next steps that you're going to do after they do? And where do you want your business to be, let's say 5 years from now? So, of course, I have 80 million other questions because questions are what I do. But these questions like these help me to craft messaging that's unique to people's personality and also distinctly expresses their business and exactly what they offer and concisely says who they most want to attract, who they most want to work with in their business. It also can turn off people who they don't want to attract, who they don't want to work with in their business. These questions help me to understand their values, their expectations, their boundaries, the boundaries that help them stay on track with their goals, where they see themselves in the coming years. So, when I think about my own goals, and I'm just going to think about this year because 5 years is a lot, but when I think about my own goals, I'm able to gain a lot of clarity on the boundaries that I'm actually going to need to have in place to be able to achieve those things. So that's kind of why I start with that question. So let's just say some of my goals are to work with X number of clients this year and earn a certain income and share about these new offerings and guest on X number of podcasts and also have free time to play, enjoy my husband, my dog, my family, my friends, create stuff for fun, right? I need time to tend to my house and run my errands and live my life and go on trips. So using these goals, using kind of what I am set out to do this year as my launch pad, I can then say, all right, I'm actually going to have these boundaries around my time or my business that are going to allow me to have that energy, that peace, that focus, that presence that I want everywhere that I go, business, personal, otherwise. Starting with that end in mind can help you, or the big picture in mind, can help you think about where you need to actually set some clearer expectations for other people in your life with the goal of protecting time and energy. First of all, to achieve those things that you want, and second of all, to show up in the way that you want to be in your life. So today, we're going to get into how your messaging actually can help you with that. We'll be touching on your website. We'll be touching on your social media, in proposals, onboarding documents, anything else that pops into my mind, a few other bonus little spots that we'll get. But my hope is really to give you some food for thought and a chance to reflect on some of the places you actually might want to establish some boundaries for yourself. Because what I don't want for you is that in achieving your goals or in running your business or living your life, you feel always on. You feel like you always have to be responding. You feel like you always have to be over-delivering, always be, really anything other than what you want to be in business and life. I don't want you to feel like you always have to be doing. So that's why I love boundaries. This year, I'm practicing setting boundaries in a lot of areas in my life. So let me just say this. I am a woman of my word. And if I say that I will do something by a certain date, I will do it. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I will go unless I have like the plague. But this means I need to be really careful with my yeses and I need to be careful with my whens. I can't say yes to everything and everyone. I can't jump now for everything and everyone. I can't do all the things. So some of the areas that I've just been working on with my own boundaries are like projects I will and won't do, topics I will and won't write about, values I will and won't support, time that I spend on calls versus actually in deep client work, time that I'm like overcommitting myself in general, and also just committing to things that I don't really actually want to do in the first place. So if you listen to my episode on boundaries, which I will include in the show notes, you may remember me sharing that this isn't about being rigid or mean or like shutting doors in people's faces. In fact, I think boundaries are the kinder way to go because they are clear and they give people an opportunity to respect you and also for you to respect them. And they also give everybody involved like clarity. People know what to expect. They also know how, and they also know when. So without boundaries, what you might face are things like, unrealistic client demands, unclear expectations. You might feel drained, overwhelmed, burned out, lack of focus. Ping-ponging is a feeling I've experienced when I don't have good boundaries in place. Resentment can come up, anger, frustration. The list goes on. And that's why this is such an important topic and why I wanted to address it again from a different sort of perspective. I want to talk about some of the things we can do in our businesses, in our actual messaging to set some of these boundaries in place. So let's start with the website. Some areas on our website where I think our website is kind of like really foundational for the boundaries that we might have in our business. It is your home on the internet. Homepage, sweet homepage, as I like to sometimes jokingly say. It's a representation of your business and it sets the tone for what people can expect from you. I like to think of my website as my pal, like it is my partner, okay? My website and we are walking this path together. My website is helping me to achieve the goals that I have for my life and also my business. Here's how it does that. It will help us speak to specific types of clients. So see how it's helping you to achieve that goal. It helps people to understand your services and also how they can benefit from them. It lays out who we are. It lays out who I am. It helps people to understand whether or not this is going to be the right fit. Do our personalities make a good fit? Does my skill set make a good fit? I need to clearly show who I am. That's like kind of a boundary right there. It also answers important questions on things like response time, maybe a little bit about our processes, what you can expect, an idea of cost, right? Sometimes, how to schedule, whether or not you're a one-man show, one-woman show, or whether or not I have an army of copywriters behind me. Your website is a place that you can like kind of weed out people right from the start who are not going to be a great fit and bring in close the people who are. So here's some recommendations and ideas. I would not recommend putting my policies and procedures like in bold capital letters on your homepage. Okay, that might be a little off-putting, but you might have a little spot, let's say on your contact page, right? That kind of lets people know high level either what your process is. For some of us, it's going to be applicable to kind of give people an idea of our process, and you might have that someplace else too. But a high level of that and or how quickly they can expect to hear back from you, what those next steps look like, right? Like, are we going to meet on Zoom? Are we going to meet via phone? Et cetera, et cetera. Some people, and I would say this for business cards too, include contact information on your contact page. Like, of course, you might have a form, but include any other contact information that you actually want people to use to contact you. Meaning, if you don't want people to call you, don't put your phone number on there. If you don't want people to text you, don't put your phone number on there. If you want people only to email you, put your email on there. If you don't want people to come to your home, don't put your home address on there. Same goes for your business card. Like, don't put your address on there if you don't want people knowing your address. Don't put your phone number on there if you don't want people knowing your phone number. Don't put your email if you don't like people emailing you, et cetera, et cetera. So I wouldn't put my policies and procedures like right there on my homepage, but I would put something on my contact page that lets people know kind of what is going to happen next. I've also seen people having, and I like this, their values on their about page or their mission and vision statement, defining like who they help and how they help. So that's another option for you. If that's like important to you, you might consider doing that. Sometimes we can show our values through the rest of our pages, right? Through the rest of our copy without actually defining them. But sometimes it's really important to define them. Your services page. This might include the features of your services, your actual deliverables, a starting at price, right? That's going to help people weed themselves out, self-identify if that's in their budget right now. For the record, I have so many thoughts on including pricing on your website. They're very nuanced. There's a lot of different like maybes and it depends. And it's too many thoughts to insert in this podcast episode, but maybe we will address that down the road to put prices on your website or not to put prices on your website. Suffice it for now to say that it does make sense for some people and it also does not make sense for some people. So we will get into that in the future. If you want to talk to me about it like right now doesn't make sense for you, all my links to connect with me and the way that I like to connect are in the show notes. In the episode at the beginning of this month, February, if you're tracking with me live time, we talked about not relying on pain point marketing throughout your website. As I kind of told you, if you want to create that urgency on your website, go ahead and add those pain points throughout your website. It's always okay. It's whatever you choose. But you can see how that's actually like kind of setting a boundary right there, because that's going to attract a specific kind of person who has maybe different expectations about your time. Maybe it's more of a like a rushed and hurried and like I need fast results kind of thing. So right then and there, you're creating an expectation around your time, what they're getting, etc., etc. Some people will put their working hours on their website or on their Google profiles. I have mine on my Google profile. I think that's lovely. Some people will have booking or scheduling links right there where they can go straight to their calendar. Forms can also be really helpful for helping you reach your goals. The questions you include on those forms can help people to self-identify as a right fit. It can help you identify them as a right fit, and you can come to the conversation with them with more knowledge right out of the gate and that opportunity to kind of like clear up any misconceptions that could lead to creaky boundaries, let's say. I do not have a booking form on my website with my calendar. And I know that that drives some people bananas, but it's really actually important for me for many reasons. One of which, my calendar is actually tied to two organizations' calendar and a few other like collaborators' calendars. And it can be really hard to juggle all of that using the calendar booking software I have. I have tried, so it is not on there. Secondly, and I would say even more importantly, it's actually really, I like to make the first connection with somebody one-to-one, whether that be email or whether that be a text message or they fill out my form on my website. I want to know a little bit more about them and what they think I do before we even schedule a call together. So I simply have a contact form on my contact page. I explain at the top or at the bottom somewhere, they will hear from me in X hours or less, and then I'll reach out with times to schedule our call. So the next steps are kind of clearly on there. And that's for you to choose how you want that to work. But all of those details, think about them because they matter in helping to set the tone for working with you moving forward and also how people are going to actually get in touch with you. So where to go next? If we're setting the website aside, let's move on. Let's say they've used your website to get in touch with you, and now you guys are going to have a call, okay? First of all, if there's anything that they need to know or that you need to know before your call, make sure that you address that in some sort of follow-up communication. And then let's say you get on the call, it's fantastic, you're ready to send them a proposal. Usually before even that, I will on the call kind of describe next steps for them and what they can expect. So I will once again use that as an opportunity to lay out the expectations clearly verbally, right, on that initial call with people. Then have a great call. I say, let's say you want to send them a proposal. I always ask if I can send them a proposal. I like to get that implicit yes, even at that stage. I don't want to sell if people are not wanting me to offer them something, right? So some people, I will tell a cost right on the call. Some people I'll say an estimate. Some people are able to give an exact cost on the call, have folks whip out their credit card and say, let's do it. Let's move forward. So I like to send a proposal afterwards. Let's say we're there. Now it's time to send them that proposal, move forward, and you're onboarding, right? There's a lot of opportunity in our proposals, in our contracts, in onboarding to make things clear. Yet again, we're making it clear again as we establish the scope of our work together. And this is really important to miscommunications down the road. I had a client recently who I had an experience with a lot of miscommunication with. And so what I learned is that, like, if I'm not very clear, basically if I give them an inch, they will take a mile. So I was extremely clear. I had to include wording that I might not otherwise use in some of my proposal and onboarding information. This does not include X. Edits must be sent within X number of days. I don't use WhatsApp for business conversations, et cetera, et cetera. So things I had to really spell out and define. I don't use social media for business conversations. The list goes on. Now, if they try to push that, which they do from time to time, I'm just simply able to go back to that wording very confidently and kindly and just remind them this is not what we established. I don't talk about this. Okay. So those are the things that you might need to consider in this onboarding and proposal communication. And I hate that some of it I learned the hard way. Like sometimes it's just like, oh my gosh, this isn't going well. And it's because I had this lack of communication or this lack of boundaries. But here are some things I specifically would say to focus on to get started in this, okay? Number one is the actual scope of work. That's where you are telling them exactly what is included and what is not included. That's the services, the products, how many calls, what are the deliverables? Is there email access in between? Is there Voxer access in between? Like what exactly is included in this? How many edits? How many rounds of revisions, et cetera, et cetera. Pricing is another one. Pricing is one you're going to want to be really transparent about because you want to avoid negotiations or misunderstandings down the road. If you have special pricing policies, like if we do go over the number of calls or the number of revisions, it's billed at XYZ per hour, right? I often will put that in mind, something like that. Processes and policies. So this is where you're going to lay out your processes and your policies, your payment terms, revisions, deadlines, late fees, restart fees, all of that stuff. So clients know exactly what to expect and what is going to happen if they don't hold up their end of the bargain, because this is a collaboration. It's a two-way street. Timeline and availability. That's where I like to outline my availability and the timeline for the project. And I will also say, here are kind of like our deadlines or milestones. If we have to push this out, I don't have an availability until XYZ. So I'm very clear in the timeline they can expect and also what will happen if we don't get started right now. The last one I want to bring up in this process of getting started together is mentioning boundaries in your communication. So if you have preferred channels of communication and also ones that you will not use, this is the place you want to put that. Sometimes I will say like response times they can expect from me. I respond to work emails within 48 hours. I do prefer that people email me. I only address urgent matters I probably wouldn't even say I only address urgent matters on the weekend. I would just leave it at that. But this is also where you can kind of say, I don't use social media to communicate, for example. So that is a really, really important one. And like I said, this is a collaboration. So it does require both of us having that respect for each other and reciprocity to get the best out of the experience. And sometimes we might make a decision to change a boundary for somebody, and that is okay too. For me, if people are communicative and they're responsive and they're in this as much as, they're invested in this process with me, I'm able to really operate in my best way, give them an amazing experience. Everything goes according to kind of timeline and it goes way, way smoother. And we actually end up having fun. So boundaries can also be the key to lightening up a little bit and enjoying yourself because you're not worried about things that might go wrong. Social media, last place I just wanted you to consider in setting boundaries, both for your own use, if that is applicable for you, and also for it as a communication tool in your business. So, for example, you might set boundaries between your personal and your professional life on various platforms. Maybe you only use LinkedIn for business, but you use Instagram for personal. You might define the things that you're going to share publicly and the things that you're going to reserve for private channels. You may actually, on Facebook, there is this cool little way to show certain people some things and not everybody. Sometimes you can choose, like, do I want to share this publicly? Do I want to share this to my friends only? Do I not want this person to see it, etc., etc. The other one is like how much time you actually want to be spending on these apps. That's your own. That's your own work to do. How much time you want to be spending on social media. That's a boundary you can set for yourself. And then engagement limits, like considering, like we kind of talked about before, but what sort of comments am I willing to have on my content? What sort of messages are appropriate? What kind of engagement is appropriate for me? So sometimes you have to put a boundary up, right? Like if somebody's being wildly inappropriate, or your friend from high school is like posting really weird things on your business content, like you might need to set a boundary there. So thinking about those kind of things, and then remembering, like, social media does not need to be, it can be a communication tool for clients and your business. I don't mind starting a conversation there, but I don't want my clients to be sending me, like some people will like send me a reel and give me like an idea for their stuff. And I'm like, this is not how my brain works. You must email these ideas to me. I can't use that for like a management tool for what's happening in my business. So project-wise. And then lastly, it's just like, what response time and what frequency do you want to have? And you don't need to give immediate responses. You don't need to be 100% on like all the time. You can choose to lay those boundaries for yourself. You can turn your phone off at 6:00 at night if you want to, or 5:00 at night, or never have it on. Like all of these things are okay. You don't need to give immediate responses, but you may need to lay out those expectations somewhere on your social media, especially if that is a place that you use to kind of like attract or engage clients. So see how, if you stop and think about it, all of these things, when you think about them, they're helping you to achieve your goals. And that's what I like. There is so much power in our messaging, but that is a huge thing. It can actually help you achieve your goals and support you in growing your business. And it can help you to set those boundaries. You can use your messaging as a guide, and then you can turn to your messaging and turn to those boundaries and turn to those values whenever you need to make a decision, or whenever you need to kind of like communicate something in a more, let's say like direct way, right? So like if you need to decline or refer a project that does not fit your expertise or values, you can use your messaging to politely turn down offers that are like out of scope or not in line with your goals. You can redirect people to other options if they aren't ready to make that level of investment. There's a lot that your messaging actually can do. It is your pal. It is your buddy. I love walking alongside my messaging hand in hand. Last week, we talked about know, like, and trust. And one thing I think is really important in trust building is consistency. Consistency in what you say and what you do. Consistency in upholding these boundaries that you've set. They can help to build trust and also mutual respect. When your boundaries are expressed through all of your communication channels, your websites, your proposals, your emails, etc. And then when clients and prospects actually see you sticking to them, they earn more respect for your time. They earn more respect for your expertise, and they earn a ton of respect and absolutely love when you give them 100% of your presence and your focus. When people know that I'm showing up 100%, of course they're going to respect and value my time more than if I'm just kind of like distracted the whole time, right? Consistency with our boundaries, and I will also say having boundaries, really set you apart as a professional and focused and helping customers to feel more confident in working with you and the services that you provide. One thing I've noticed is that if I run my business like a business, if I run my business like a well-run business, my small business clients tend to really respect and understand how I operate. And in some cases, I think that I actually get to inspire them to do the same, and it's lovely. So if you don't do it for you, think of who else you could inspire by setting boundaries in your business. Okay. In closing, I just want to be sure to mention that, boundaries, I think I mentioned this kind of, but they're not set in stone. Like as your business adapts and changes, you can and you should adjust your boundaries and your messaging to reflect those shifts. What you don't want is messaging that like, okay, this is the business owner I was 10 years ago, not the business owner I am today, right? You want your boundaries evolve as you do. And kind of like I mentioned before, like sometimes there will be times when you're going to lighten up on them or change them a little bit for certain circumstances and situations. You and only you can determine that. Okay, 3 mini action steps to choose from. I'd love to invite you to take one of these right now or, when you get back from your walk or you're done washing your dishes. Okay, here's action step idea number 1. You can pick or you can do none. Up to you. Number 1, consider what your goals are and whether or not that you're operating your business right now, the way that you're operating your business right now, is it going to allow you to achieve those goals? Am I operating my business in a way that's going to allow me to achieve my goals? If not, what is just one boundary I could implement to start moving me in the right direction? Maybe I need to stop replying to client emails on the weekends. Maybe I need to turn my phone off at 5 o'clock. Okay. Maybe I need to, I don't know, you choose what it is for you. But if your business is not allowing you to achieve your goals the way you're operating it right now, what is just one boundary you could implement to start moving you forward in the right direction? Micro action number 2. Go look at your website copy. See if it is clear who you work with. See if it is clear what you offer. And is it all up to date with your availability, how people book, the processes, any forms people need to get started with you right now. And then number 3, mentally consider your own time on social media. Does it feel like you're spending too much time on social media? Do you want to cut back on how many clients are communicating with you there? Do you need to change what you share and how you share it? We're going to talk about doing a business regroup soon. Remember, social media can actually help your business boundaries. It can help you achieve your goals. And it gives you lots of little micro practice, I think, as you're setting those boundaries in the future. Okay. On that note, I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I think you'll probably have some, so feel free to connect with me. I do use social media to connect about the podcast and start conversations like these. I also use email. You can find all the links for the places that I can be found and I would like to be accessed in the show notes. Next week, we're going to talk about spreading the love and sharing little gifts with other small business owners that is not going to cost you a dime and only a few moments of your time, but all 3 things go a long, long way and create a big impact. I will chat with you then. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Content with Character. If you loved the episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate, review, and share it with someone else you know it could help. For more content and visibility tips, visit my blog at emilyaborn.com and be sure to connect with me on Instagram at emilyaborn. I'd love to hear how this inspired you to take action.